Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning.
Hey, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Welcome to the studio in Ogden, Utah.
Yes.
Glad to have you here.
Yep. On Wednesday and Friday, we'll be broadcasting from Las Vegas. And we are, I'm pretty well packed. And so we've got a couple more things to pack. I'm like,
I'll be throwing stuff in the window of the car as it's time to go. That's kind of my routine.
Even though we do this frequently, and I have like my systems and everything, I usually start at least 24 hours before. And
it's kind of fun. It's a fun game we
10
play.
minutes,
And then she spends 24 hours packing. I spend 24 seconds packing. And then we compare notes on who forgot what. So yeah.
And you know what? I still forget stuff.
Yeah.
I just do. So we're excited about that. We're heading to Vegas. We're going to be attending the Neo User Summit tomorrow. And then we're in town for a bunch of company meetings with different people that we're working with and building some things that are pretty cool with. And there is more to come on that front.
Excited for that. We're also going to get a chance to see a lot of folks that we know in Vegas over the next few days. So that's always exciting and fun. We more fun for us than them, I'm sure. But we got just quick updates. We got the Neo User Summit, which is tomorrow. We will be there for that. We certainly want to know about the latest technology with Neo. That's at the Bellagio, as is BHPH United, which is Wednesday and Thursday, the 24th and 25th. So
their opening thing is tomorrow night.
Yeah, they have their cocktail kind of check-in tomorrow evening. And then we have our V8 Group 3 meets on the night of the 30th. So there's still time. That one's our newcomer group, but generally for Buy Here, Pay Here folks that are brand new or have up to about 100 accounts. So
V8 is virtual 8. Each group is no more than 8 people. Moderator, it's talking some basic numbers and, an opportunity to connect and compare and bring a beer and your dinner. Yeah. So, it's pretty casual. So
for sure. We've had meetings with dealers have kids on their laps, and it's just kind of it's the way we do virtual now. So it's been a fun kind of adjustment.
We were having a conversation backstage with our guests and Mr. Ben Goodman, who's going to be joining us in just a second. We were talking about how great it is to do things virtually. It's kind of it's kind of nice. Yeah. And the horror stories we hear from other people that we work with, having to get up to go get the door, and you've got your crazy Hawaiian shorts on from the bottom half, and you're all business.
Yeah.
And then something different on the bottom. Yeah. Okay.
Shall we?
Yes, we shall. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. First, we have Mr. Ben Goodman. Ben Goodman is an NIADA 20 group moderator. Good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Welcome from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So I remember it used to be about drinking coffee. So I have my Starbucks.
Oh man. One of these days we're going to get our act together and actually get coffee mugs that are like Buy Here, Pay Here Morning Show. I mean, we do this 3 days a week. We should, and we drink a lot of coffee.
And I believe you, Ben, when you say that's coffee in the cup. I believe you.
Mm-hmm. For the most part. For the most part, it's coffee.
Yeah, right.
And then
welcome Jay Goninen from he owns WrenchWay. I had it.
Yes.
Lost the name. So welcome, Jay. We're happy to have you here. And I can tell you quickly that before we get a little of your background, we found you kind of by way of your article in NIADA's magazine. And of course, we learned then that you were to appear on the stage at NIADA. So we want to hear about that. But first, just kind of give us a little bit of your background.
First and foremost, thank you for having me on the show. I was just cracking up as you guys are talking. Such good energy on a Monday morning. So I really appreciate that. As far as my background, I've spent my entire life in this industry. My family has an independent automotive repair shop in Wisconsin, where I'm from. And I actually just took over ownership of that shop at the beginning of the year. So back on kind of the repair side myself on the front lines, as well as WrenchWay. But interesting part about my career was grew up in a shop, started my career as a technician, and one of the things I kind of poke fun at myself with is that I was a terrible technician, and almost the industry kind of pushed me in a direction that I needed to go, because I grew up watching techs and just always thought it was really, really easy because I watched them do it every day. And then when I got put under a car, was pretty terrible at it. So that kind of led me to different aspects of the industry, and ultimately led some shops. I went the dealer route. I actually both manufacturer and dealer route. Spent time with both as a rep and then leading parts and service departments before starting a company called Find a Wrench in 2017. We started Find a Wrench, it was me in my basement, and it was more of a traditional recruiting firm for technicians. And really the reason I started it was because I struggled to find technicians myself, and I knew I couldn't be alone in that regard. So we did that. That grew really, really fast. But one thing we noticed in doing it was that maybe we weren't fixing the core of the issue, right? We were kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And at the end of the day, that wasn't fixing the need. When I grew up in the industry, it was very much a sin to go take a tech from your neighboring shop. And it felt like those rules had kind of all gone out the window. And at some point we were kind of attributing to that, right? Or contributing to it. So we launched WrenchWay in 2020. It's actually supposed to be March of 2020, but we remember what happened there. So it got pushed down a few months.
Blip.
Yeah, just a minor blip. Nobody probably even remembers what happened back then. But but yeah, so then we've been building WrenchWay ever since. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, it's a very nice platform. We'll talk more about that as we go here. I think we want to bring Ben back in, and Ben, we're here mostly to talk about hiring technicians, and we were talking a little bit about before the show started about your association with service business. You, like me, kind of come more from the finance side of the business. Obviously, you've been introduced to service and working at the management level with service departments, but you want to kind of share some of your background as it relates to our topic today?
Yeah. Well, so, I guess out of college and then out of the Navy, my degrees in computer programming and business administration, and then meteorology and oceanography. So naturally, I turned to
yeah,
right. That's exactly right.
How's the weather for techs? Then that's here.
That's exactly right. So I spent 16 years, to your point, on the finance side in the subprime market with City Financial, Citigroup, so subsidiary Citigroup, and left there in 2010 and joined Byrider. If you guys know who Byrider is, or the audience know who Byrider is, they were one of the largest franchised buy here, pay here franchises across the country. At about 147 locations when I joined them back in 2010. And gosh, I did just about every job, from on a management side in that organization, and had small shops that I ran, large shops that I ran, small shops where we're selling 15, 20 cars up to, grew that to 55 cars, larger shops where we're selling close to 100, ran multi-points for them, BDC, blah, 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 all that kind of good stuff. So fast forward a little bit, I was a consultant for my last 5 years there with those guys. So I got a chance to work with all of the dealers in every phase of the operations. As a subject matter expert, helping them increase their profitability, which obviously includes service. Anybody out there, look, service is not sexy. It's not sales, but it is the glue that absolutely holds the dealership together. If you don't believe that, oh my goodness, we need to have a conversation about it, because it is the glue that holds your dealerships together. So obviously I spent a lot of time helping these guys in their service departments, help them improve there. Joined NIADA in August of 21. I have 8 dealer groups. Well, I have 6 dealer groups. I have a service group, 20 group that I moderate, and I have a finance group that I moderate. And so I get to work with hundreds of dealers. And in my consulting, gosh, I can't even tell you how many dealerships I've gotten a chance to visit. Seems like almost every time I do a consulting job, I'm in the service department. That seems to be where a lot of folks need help these days. And I got to tell you, I've been able to pick up a lot of tips and tricks. I've done 50-ish 20 groups now, 20 group meetings now. And there hasn't been a single one that we do a thing called hot topics. There hasn't been a single hot topic yet where it hasn't been, how do I find technicians? How do I recruit
This is a
technicians?
hot topic.
Oh my goodness. It is every single meeting. It's changed a little bit recently though. And I'll share that with you on why, but it's changed a little bit recently. So that's kind of my background on the
I think
technician
that
side.
the four of us should do all that we can to make the shop sexy now.
Oh, nice.
So,
well,
I love that.
we like it.
It depends on who's in there. It's not going to happen if I'm in the shop. I just want you to know.
That guy named Wally with the beer belly. He's really
He brushed his teeth this week.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why dealers, they just tried it. They're like, oh, I don't want to go in the back. I don't want to go back there. You better get back there.
And mostly for Jay's benefit, I would share that, I come from a retail kind of sporting goods background, and then I stepped into the franchise space for a couple of years, sales and sales management, and then most of my career has been a buy here, pay here. Owned a dealership for some years, and I managed several, and been around service mostly in that element, whether it was outsourcing, subcontracting work out, or bringing techs into the shop. But I think for today, we want to kind of help. Of course, our audience is primarily buy here, pay here. We know that some independents have, similar struggles, and you guys at NIADA are talking to both segments routinely, and I think part of what I see with the shops that are buy here, pay here is they may not have the budgets maybe to be able to track. So when I think about, the work for us to really get our service departments well stacked and have somebody real qualified on each lift, you think about attracting those folks. First of all, it's just like, how would you begin to attract them? And I know, Jay, you have a lot of experience there. And then how would you hire them? Like once they did show up, what would it take typically to go about hiring them? And the last part for me would just be retaining them. But for today, we mostly want to talk about kind of, first of all, Jay, maybe let me have you speak to this idea of how do we attract them? Like, how do we go out and create something appealing to get a chance to talk to some techs?
So this is a topic that you could go a million different directions in, right? And the very first and foremost thing that I'll say is to be a part of a 20 group, to get some level of coaching, because you have to be profitable enough to be able to pay your people and offer them the proper benefits that they need. In a lot of cases in your space, when we've worked with a dealership, we've noticed there's still kind of an archaic thinking around technicians and technician pay. And a lot of times not being realistic in terms of what they need to be paying their people. And honestly, that's not even just for the people that you're trying to recruit. That's for retention, because everybody's going after everybody's technicians right now. And if you're not taking care of your people and you've got a star in the shop, the chances that some other company is going to find that individual and pay them significantly more, the chances are pretty high, right? So I was just down in Dallas late last week and gave a presentation on the trucking side to a parts buying group. And I said the exact same thing down there, in that if you're not profitable enough to be able to afford to pay your people or to offer them the benefits that they need, that is your number one issue, because you're going to not only have a tough time recruiting people, you're going to have a tough time retaining people. And we talk a lot about how these next generations always think about culture and benefits, and those things are wildly important. But it still starts with pay, right? And these people need to take care of their families, and they need to be treated with respect, because the current day technician is so talented. I think that's one thing that we can't overstate, right? Because if we don't respect a technician in the way that we should, I guarantee you there are shops that will. And so I think that's an important factor. The other important thing to understand is that if you look at this is really just a numbers game. There aren't nearly enough technicians to fill all of the open jobs. So you are essentially fighting all of the other competition for that talent. Not only the other competition, you're fighting the other skilled trades. You're fighting some of the white collar space right now, because they're looking for that technical aptitude that a technician offers. And so I think going into this, you need to be intentional about how you put together a plan. Every single dealership, every single shop is going to be a little bit different in how they go about it because of their current staff. So I think being realistic about where you stand in the marketplace and truly understanding that there aren't enough people to fill all of the open jobs currently. So you've got to work at it. There's not a silver bullet out there that's just going to take care of all your problems. The more you can open the top of the funnel, try to get more candidates in there while putting together a strategy where you're developing your own talent for the future is essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay had a lot of really good points. If you don't mind, if I jump in. So you mentioned the 20 group program, and I think it's more than anything. The profitability obviously is a piece of that, but I think it's the networking. It's that understanding. We're notorious. Our business is notorious for making changes late in the process, right?
Yeah.
So you think about it, we wait for a really long time until it's that squeaky wheel, pun intended. We're not really addressing it, right? So think about where we were in our tech pay prior to COVID. And COVID changed a lot of thinking in how we run our buy here, pay here dealerships. And think about where we were in tech pay. So I can tell you in my 20 groups, we were late, but for the most part, that conversation has shifted from how do I pay my techs, what do I pay my techs, right? To today, how do I train and how do I incentivize my techs, and how do I how do I retain my techs? And the reason why is because we spent 2 years, 21 and 22, 23, half of it was spent, oh my gosh, how do I recruit techs? How do I pay them? How much are you paying? How much should we pay? What's the right dollar amount? And there's just been a complete level set. Now, as I travel around to the state associations, I get an opportunity to talk to non-20 group members quite a bit, right? And we're still not quite there on the pay side of it. So that question is still out there for those non-20 group members. So that level set, and gosh, it's been quite a bit. I mean, probably about, I don't know, this is anecdotal, but in my estimate, maybe about $8 to $10 an hour shift over the last 3 years and what we're paying our technician base.
Right.
So I think that's a big deal. And that networking is a big part of it.
When you talk about base pay, I think that's a great question. What is the industry asking for?
We can't discuss that.
We can't.
Well, it's interesting.
I asked it.
We thought the same thing, right? So we do a lot of content that is more educational in nature through WrenchWay as a whole. One of the things I think that is really damning for our industry is that if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it says the average technician makes about $45,000 a year, with the top tier making roughly $70,000. So the top 10% making $70,000. When we talk to technicians every single day, we see technicians making significantly more than that.
Yeah,
right? And so we actually we had done a webinar about a month ago called. It was something around technician pay, but we did this technician pay survey because we were curious and we wanted more real-time data. We wanted the ability to get our hands around this in a little bit more structured of a way. So we had done a technician pay survey. We had about 3,000 respondents to that survey. And the data, interestingly enough, came back as significantly higher than even that. But the funny part was that we didn't have enough entry-level people doing it. Like when we went in to do the survey, we thought that it was just going to be, we were a little worried that it was just going to be all entry-level people and that your survey data would reflect what the Bureau of Labor Statistics does. And so we were encouraged to see that. But then as we're doing this, we're like, we need something a little bit more real-time. And so we built a technician pay tool through WrenchWay where technicians can go on, put their salary information in there anonymously, and get an idea of where they stand in the market. The nice part is that helps these dealers a lot as well, because as well as you'd think they'd know pay in their geographic region, there are a lot that are just straight up oblivious to it, right? They don't know. And in a lot of cases, the technicians have a lot better feel for it than what the dealers even do, because their friends work in the industry and they work for the neighboring dealership. And so we wanted a way to do that. We have now had that tool out. And as we gain more and more data, I think the tool becomes more and more effective. So I'm really excited about that, because I do think that's something that is on the back of a lot of people's minds.
I love that you do data. That's like awesome. I mean, and we keep telling people, stop just taking gut feelings and measure.
I'm wondering, before we get away from that survey, did you ask about, because I'm wondering about benefits, like direct salary is one thing, but I'm wondering how much benefits are going to be a factor at our buy here, pay here level.
Yeah, so we did a what we call the Voice of Technician survey late last year, where we actually have a really nice report out on WrenchWay.com. If you go check it out, I would encourage you to take some time and just read through it and really try to understand it, because there is a lot of data there. Some of the things that even Ben was talking about in the shift in what technicians are wanting is really, really true on what we got back in our reporting, which was they want good tooling, they want good training, right? They want their scan tools to be updated, they want their tools to be up to date, they want their hoists to be inspected, right, so that they're safe when they're standing underneath it. So I think what Ben was saying was very reflective of some of the stuff that we were seeing in the survey results. And I think when you look at that, there's a huge opportunity there for shops, because if they look at the common complaints of technicians, if you can go and make sure that those common complaints are some of your strengths, I think that gives you a leg up against the competition when you go into those talks.
Yeah. How do you handle extreme weather, hot and cold? That's something that's important right now. Techs have, to Jay's earlier point, there's such a lack of qualified technicians. The numbers just simply aren't there. They're kind of in demand right now, right? So how do you handle extreme weather? Do you have AC? Do you have heaters? Is your shop clean and organized and up to code? Are your shop tools current and working order? Do you offer healthcare? I have a lot of my 20 group members now who are offering healthcare to their technicians. It's a pretty significant shift.
So I want to kind of back into some napkin math, if you will, with me on because I wonder, you guys, between the two of you, are bound to have some information about if I'm a well qualified tech and I have all the parts on the shelf and have all the tools that I need. About what's the measurement for how many projects, jobs I would complete, how many cars I might turn out, day, month, whatever measurement you're used to seeing. Jay, with you first. Any feel for numbers on that?
Yeah, and I might defer to Ben here a little bit, because I think when I look at it, I think it depends on the shop a little bit, what your KPIs and what your expectations as a shop are in general.
Okay.
I think it's very relevant to a flat rate technician, because that directly impacts their pay, right? But if they're an hourly technician, I think that changes things. But Ben, I'll defer you a little bit on this.
Yeah, so we're speaking to buy here, pay here shops right now, and I think one of the things that we really have to track, Jim, to answer your question here, is we have to track time on job. We have to understand the actual repair order time, which means, and no one likes to hear this, you have to clock in when you start the job and you have to clock out when you finish the job. So your average repair order time is a direct reflection of how many units you're going to be able to recon or how many you're going to be able to do on the post-sale service side. You have to know that stat. So if your average repair order time is 6 hours, then I expect my tech to get 6 cars out a week if he's a recon tech.
Okay.
If my average repair order time is 12, do the math, right? So there are two numbers that I think really have to be tracked efficiently. One is, I say efficiently, but I'm going to say productivity. That is a number that must be tracked, and that really is an indicator of how much work, how much wrench time you're getting out of your technician, right? How long are they actually turning wrenches on cars? The second thing is efficiency, which is how quick are they? And you have, I want my shop. Not every tech is going to be the same, because you have some that are doing diagnostic work, and you have some that are just hanging parts, and it really kind of depends on how your shop is designed, right? So I want my shop to be at a 90% productive and 110 to 120% efficient. Okay, so a lot of people might not know how to do the math on that, but so your productivity is measured is if I've got 100 clocked hours, so I've paid my tech for 100 hours, I'm gonna use that so my math is easier. Okay. So I know we're doing 40 hours in a week. So this guy worked 2.5 weeks for me. Okay. I paid him 100 hours. I expect him to be turning wrenches for 90 of those 100 hours. So he's actually on a car 90 of the 100. From an efficiency perspective, what I expect is that he has, if he's going to turn, if on the book time it says the job should take 10 hours, I expect him to get it done in 8, which is going to be, if my math is right, whatever that math is, 8 divided by 10, 115 or something like that, 120% efficient.
Where do you come up with, I mean, when you say book time, is there a catalog, or how do you know what the book time is for doing
there's
that?
all kinds of options. Jay, go ahead. I think you got this one.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting to me as I learn your side of our industry a little bit more is that there are different, like if you want to use a Mitchell, or there's different types of programs that you can get that book time from. Of course,
All
the
data.
new car dealerships, all data. The new car dealerships get it from the manufacturer, and so you have that book time readily available to you. What I have a question, maybe Ben, for you, is what are people using to, like, as far as a business system?
That was my next question. So yeah,
because I know it in the independent side, I know it in the new car dealer side, but I don't know it as well on your guys' side.
Yeah, so you're talking service module. I mean, there's a lot of. I don't want to make anybody mad by not mentioning their companies, but TechMetric, Rapid Recon, IDM. Some of the DMS systems have really good service modules. Frankly, there is a ton of different service modules that are out there, and all of them are really, really strong. If I didn't mention you, I apologize, but all of them are really strong. At the end of the day, though, you don't really need a sophisticated system to do something that's really basic. I have a repair order estimate in my hands. I hand it to a technician at 1:15. Technician brings it back to me at 3:15. It's 2 hours, right? I know what the repair order was, and I already know what the all data or the Mitchell or whatever the book time is. I have what I need. I can do this in an Excel spreadsheet. So a mechanic's timesheet becomes relatively simple. It doesn't have to be super sophisticated. Now, if I can scan a QR code and move it down the assembly line, whoo, hallelujah, that's awesome.
Well, one of the things that, like, we were talking about, we're trying to get in the younger generation, because there's a lot of techs out there that it's a dying breed, the ones that are the master techs, and we already know that in the industry, I forgot which one of you guys brought it up, because we were talking about this just the other day, is that when it comes to technology, a lot of dealers live on an island. And so they're about 10 years behind what's out there, unless you're in a 20 group or have something to start comparing and talking about the different things, going to conferences, all of that. But it's about, how are we attracting up and coming, all of those things. And the younger generation do tech. They understand tech. I think, you put a rotary phone in front of them and like, what in the heck is that? They do tech. They do everything on their phone and all of that. And there's, I'm sure that there's got to be simple things out there that a tech could even put a app on their phone and clock things, or, whatever. But it is, I get that it's a super important thing to have if you're going to have people that are worth their money in
Michelle,
your
I'll tell you, there are dealers in my dealer 20 groups right now that are starting to utilize AI. It's the folks who understand it, to your point, the younger generation of folks. But even an old guy like me can create a QR code on a phone and use it to track a car, right? So I mean, but you're right. The technicians, so I'll see dealers and they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure my guys can understand this. I'm like, dude, they could program that. Just do it. You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of what you talk about there is, my mind goes to just accountability. Like that whole measurement thing is really just a service manager, or whoever's in that chair, just holding those folks accountable to clocking in, clocking out on the projects or whatever. So, we've met some people who do that really well. And I think that the purpose behind my question about, that I started doing the math over here, Jay, on, even if I use $6,000 a month, which pushes me to $72,000 annually, most every buy here, pay here dealer we talked to, I wish I'd thought to throw a poll out there before, but Ben would confirm that most buy here, pay here dealers are going to tell you that their sales volume currently is limited by how many cars they can turn through their shop.
Yeah.
End of story.
All day.
So the question becomes, what can we pay? Because it's back to that thing about opportunity cost. If I'm missing 15, 20, 25 sales a month, what is it costing me to not have those folks in there?
Yeah. Is it worth a few more $1,000s a month?
The answer is yes. Go ahead.
I think our industry is really, really guilty of tripping over dollars to get the dimes, right?
Yeah.
To use kind of the old saying.
Yeah.
And we'll look at that, that one, even looking at technology for a management system for your service department, a lot of times isn't crazy expensive, and it's done on a monthly basis. And I think, like, if you can look at it in the efficiency that could drive by actually having some systems in place to be able to drive efficiency, and it helps you turn cars faster,
Sure.
There's a value prop there for a lot of this stuff. Now, it's easy to get overwhelmed because there are endless options of things that you can use, but if you work at it, I think you can have a really good, efficient system that's going to help you put out more cars.
Right.
Well, and one of the things, when you start talking about cost, Jim, it's, we need to run our buy here, pay here. Our buy here, pay here service department is a cost center. Okay. And we tend to operate it because a lot of us come from the retail side, right? We started off flipping cars, having our retail shops where we're upselling customers. But that cost center approach, it's different from the profit center approach. And before you can really start thinking about, can I afford an extra $6,000 on my technician, you've got to analyze that cost center piece. And what are your labor hours that you're billing? Are your repair orders covering your total labor hours? Are your repair orders covering your overhead, or do you have a pack to cover your overhead? And when you start thinking about that, and when you drill that down on a per car basis, you almost always win. And to your earlier point, you're right, Jim, 1000%. There isn't a dealer out there that wouldn't say, man, if I put 50 on my front lot, I'll sell 50. If I put 30, I might sell 50, but it's harder, and my portfolio is going to suffer for it.
I was on a meeting the other day where a dealer was telling me, we got people calling in, and the salespeople are out there talking about the cars that are supposed to be ready this week. Like they're pre-selling this, which is not all terrible, but the idea is we got to be able to turn that stuff through. And if we have to pay more to do it, we have to pay more to do it because the cost of missing that business is too high. So I think we're going to have you gentlemen back another time.
Lot that we could talk about. It's a pretty good time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, Jay,
more.
for your, in particular, Ben sees this too. One of the things we see as, coaches who work with buy here, pay here dealers routinely and get pretty deep in operation stuff. One of the other things that we see is that buy here, pay here dealers often have a smaller shop. They might have 3 to 5 lifts or whatever the typical, small shop is going to look like. And they're balancing back there their own recon, for the cars that they're in their pipeline for the lot. And then they're also taking in customer work. So they're having to figure out, and of course they're frustrating technicians in the process. Right. And so it's like having to find that balance in our buy here, pay here space is a whole nother challenge. So why don't we bring these two gentlemen back to talk about that?
I'd love to do that. Would you guys be game?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like great conversation. And I especially love it when we've got guests that start asking each other questions. Like,
I'm always learning something, for sure.
That's pretty awesome.
Ben, that's something I thought.
Well, I was just going to say that, I know I've got a lot of gray hair, mate, but I'm learning something new. There's something new in this business this business is evolving so quickly. And you've got to be on the front edge of it. You really do.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Today's the first time we've got a meteorologist on the show. Ben will be the guy who tells us, it's the conditions are not really favorable for hiring technicians right now. The barometric pressure is a little bit.
My hand's getting wet as I hold it out the window. I think it's going to rain today.
Yeah, good for you.
I can tell that because my hands hurt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, gentlemen.
Gentlemen,
we appreciate
yeah.
you making time.
Both Ben and Jay will be speaking at NIADA, which is June 19th, 20th, and 21st.
It is the 17th through the 20th.
And the 17th
Monday.
through the 20th. I just know
Monday
my
through
birthday's on the
Thursday.
19th, and it happens during my birthday
that's all you
every
have to say.
single year.
Everybody
So
you can't ever lose on your birthday. So when you're in
Right.
Vegas on your birthday at convention, you
Dangerous.
go.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind. Last year, I tried to bring a cake in to one of the cocktail things at the end, and I got shut down.
Oh,
no.
You
okay.
cannot bring food in here. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a birthday cake. Oh well. All right, gentlemen, thank you again so much. We really, really appreciate you joining us today, and we have just. One of our listeners that's really appreciate. Awesome. Learned a lot. Thanks so much, Bobby, for piping in. And we will have you back soon.
Jay, it was great to meet you. Jim, Michelle, thank you very
you.
much.
Keep
up
Thank
the
you,
good work.
everybody.
Gentlemen in Vegas,
if you two want to sit back in the backstage for just a second so we can say a proper goodbye.
Sure.
Does that work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
stand
All
by.
right.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Great conversation.
Yeah, smart guys.
Yeah.
Good idea when we bring smart people to the show, right?
We know some
besides
people.
Besides you, right.
I'm married into Buy Here, Pay Here, and I do systems and processes, but I don't know jack about cars.
Yeah.
And so alrighty. Anything else you can think of? We got alrighty. Well, thanks again, everybody. We appreciate you making us a part of your Monday. It's Monday. We got a week. We'll be back on White Hat Wednesday from Vegas, and looking forward to seeing you all.
Friday is our 300th episode.
Friday's our 300th episode. So, looking forward to that. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks again.